Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to go over my top 10 PlayStation 4 games. And this is just my opinion. Don't get all mad if your game doesn't show up here or if you think my selection is terrible. These are the games I had the most fun with this generation. And without further ado, let's get into it. So coming in at number 10. Number 10 is Mega Man 11. The first game I ever beat was Mega Man 3 on the NES. To this day, Mega Man has been my favorite video game character and franchise no matter the series. But to be clear, Mega Man X is my favorite game of all time. Now with that said, after Mega Man 9 and 10, when they came out, the series went on a long, I want to say 8-year break. And I was worried that my little blue buddy was gone forever. Then there was a shine of hope. They announced the Mega Man Collection, a collection of the first 6 games, which I bought 4 copies of, one for every console it came out on. I think I have it on the Switch, the PS4, the Xbox, and the PC. Yeah, I'm a Mega fanatic. Anyway, to support the character, that's what I did. The sales must have did well enough because they announced Mega Man Collection 2, which was the rest of the original games. So Mega Man, what was it, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So between those two, they must have sold well enough because a couple years later, they announced Mega Man 11. A new game. New art style, no more 8-bit. New gear system. Voice acting, new epic music that only a Mega Man game can have. The gameplay felt perfect for what a Mega Man game has. They managed to capture the Mega Man feel again, and it was amazing. The level and the pacing of the levels and layouts were perfect, except for the Balloon Man stage. Screw that level. The bosses were all unique and awesome, and they looked really cool with the new art style. It had finally happened. Mega Man was back. Now, I own Mega Man 11 on everything as well, except PC. I haven't bought it on PC yet. This game would be higher on the list, but because it was so short, which most Mega Man games are, I had to put it down a little lower. I would have loved this game to have tons of DLC, tons of new Robot Masters to beat, because I would have played this game to death. So every once in a while I start it up and I try to beat it again. Anyway, so that's why Mega Man 11 is number 10 on this list. Let's hope X9 is next and it doesn't take another 8 years to get that. Alright, next on my list. Coming in at number 9. WWE 2K20. Now before you lose your mind that this game is even on the list, let me explain. Okay, so back on PS1, back in the original PlayStation 1 days, my first wrestling game was called WWF SmackDown. And I discovered the Create a Wrestler mode and was introduced to a world of possibilities, of characters that I could make. Although very limited at the time, it had enough to spark the imagination of every child has. So every wrestling game that had a create mode, I went out and bought. Every year I would beg my parents to buy me the newest wrestling game to see what new parts I could use and characters I could come up with. The games were decent, all the way up to 2K14 in my opinion, and that was the last one that THQ had developed before 2K took over the license. Because THQ unfortunately went bankrupt or something like that. They went under, they hemorrhaged too much money because of this, I think it was the art tablet thing. Anyway, it sucked, man, because THQ was awesome. And then 2K15 through 19 all had the same problem for me, a lack of new creation parts. It's basically the same thing, and each year they would take stuff out. They kind of killed the game for me. Hell, you couldn't even make women in 2K15. It was ridiculous. So So I finally lost almost all interest in wrestling games. Even though I like the actual wrestling, it just wasn't fun to me unless I could use my characters. Because I really don't care about playing as established wrestlers, to be honest. So anyway, 2K20 came out, and I saw all the bugs and all the hate and how bad it was because the developer Yuke's had finally left and got out of the company, or stopped making them for 2K, because they've been making them, I think, since the first SmackDown game. So the new company that took over, Vicarious Visions, only had like, I want to say 6 months to try to finish what they had, and they released a broken ass garbage game. And luckily I didn't. That's the one year I didn't buy it. That's the first year I didn't buy the wrestling game day one. Thank goodness I didn't. So then I kept looking, checking up on the game, see if they updated it, and they finally sounded like they fixed it for the most part. It's still not perfect. So I decided to give it a try. I saw the deluxe version on Best Buy for about $25, and I bought it. And holy crap, there are so many new creation parts that it made me feel like a kid again. I started making all these characters. I even tried to make a YouTube channel of my characters in a wrestling show, like my own wrestling show channel. Nobody watched it, so kind of got discouraged and stopped doing it. But if you're interested in that, let me know and I'll start it back up again. It's linked on my page. Anyway, back to the game. Yeah, I had so many fantasy-style creation parts. It sparked my creativity that I had as a kid. And say what you will about 2K20, but it has some of the best creation parts I've seen in a wrestling game. And that is why it is number 9 on my list. Also, check out my wrestling channel. Now, on to number 8. Like every kid in the 90s, I grew up watching Dragon Ball Z on Toonami. Every day after school, I would rush home to see the next episode, and my bro was awesome. He would buy the uncut versions on tape that they would release 3 episodes at a time on, just so we could see it early. So like most kids, I got every DBZ game I could find and played the crap out of them. Couldn't get enough because the fighting was so epic and awesome, and something we hadn't seen before in the States. But there was always something I wish a DBZ game had. A character mode, like in Dragon Ball Xenoverse. When I was a kid, I made up my own Super Saiyan character that had blue hair because my favorite color is blue. No joke. Funny how blue ended up becoming the strongest version of a Saiyan. I guess I was ahead of the curve, huh? Anyway, skip all the way to Xenoverse, like I just said, the first DBZ game where you're the main character. Not only can you stop the big bad from destroying the timeline, the game had me giddy at the possibilities of what I could make, maybe, due to the create mode. I thought it'd probably be pretty limited and crap like most create modes are nowadays, but I was shocked. Not only could you be a Saiyan, that can go Super Saiyan, you could be a Namekian, a Frieza race, a Buu race, a human, and you could co-op the whole thing with a buddy. You could co-op the entire game, the mission-based part. I don't think you can co-op the story parts. But you replay the story parts, basically, in co-op. Anyway, so they could take their created character, you could take your created character, and you can live out the fantasies that you probably had as a kid, playing as your character and saving the universe from great evil. It was like a dream come true from my childhood. Now skip about, I want to say, a year or 2 later, and they released Xenoverse 1.5. Well, they call it 2, which had a much bigger hub world and more stuff to do, which made the first obsolete. And the game became a mini MMO where you could take your character and join forces with other created characters to save the timeline. They managed to make a 3D fighting game that felt like an adventure game with friends. And after playing as Goku for so many years, it was so fun getting to be the hero for a change. And that's why this game is number 8 on my list. Xenoverse 2. I should have said at the beginning. Now, number 7. Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise. You're already dead. Probably the most badass anime character of all time, Kenshiro is a kung fu master out to find his lost love that was taken from him. So this game is basically a love story at its core, but that's not why we like it, right? It's because of the crazy, over-the-top, insane fights. The fact that you can punch a guy 100 times and then see him explode a few seconds later is hilariously gruesome. And the dialogue in this game is hilarious. It's like, what did he just say? I can't repeat it because it's that messed up. And to my surprise, the game is fully voiced in English. Like, holy crap, full voice acting and everything. The game has full set of combos, like a fighting game, a full skill tree, a leveling system, and equipable items. And this game has a ton of fun mini games to keep you busy for hours. It also has some unlockable old Sega arcade games that you can find and play, which is actually a really cool little Easter egg. It has a giant sandbox mode or area outside of the little city that you're mostly in for most of the game, where you can explore and find. That's where you find the arcade games. That you find little treasure things. There's other areas, big boss fights, and I'm amazed at how much is in this game because I didn't even know this game was a thing, and I know very little about Fist of the North Star. I've played. Was it this one and the Mushu game on the PS3? I've never seen the anime, but I'm very well aware of it. It's kind of like Mad Max and Dragon Ball Z had a baby. It's pretty awesome. Anyway, so yeah, it's the boss fights. Sorry, I lost my place here. The boss fights all require actual skill. You can't just button mash your way to victory, kind of like in the Mushu game. So it made the boss fights, when you finally beat one of these guys, you're literally like, oh, I felt so good, like I finally beat this jackass, right? And if you like the Yakuza games, the guys that made the Yakuza games pretty much made this game. So if you like that style of game, then check this out, because it's basically Fist of the North Star Yakuza. So it's basically a Yakuza game, but with like insane superpowers. Anyway, that's why this game comes in at number 7 on my list. Number 6, Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, Final Fantasy VII on PS1 was the first RPG I ever beat. I played other RPGs up to that point, but I would always lose interest because I was not a fan of random battles with turn-based combat when I was a kid, even though Pokemon is my favorite Nintendo franchise. The story of this game and the fact that it had a main character that looked like a Super Saiyan made me want to finish it. The world was so different than the happy Mario-style games I was used to. This was something different. The turn-based combat was actually fun. The animations during the fights were sick, and the supporting characters like Tifa, Barrett, Red 13, Vincent, Sid, and Yuffie, and Cat Sith made this world a blast to be a part of. Now skip to 2020 and imagine remaking this masterpiece with modern graphics, modern controls, and a live-action battle system, not a turn-based battle system, and you have the makings of a new masterpiece. Unfortunately, it's only the first 5 to 10 hours of the original game, but completely redone in full. It's basically a new game with those characters you grew up with, masterfully retold with a twist at the end which allows them to do whatever they want going forward with the storyline. It feels more like a sequel than a remake, and that's exactly what I wanted. That's why this comes in at number 6. Number 5, Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm going to say it now, if Zelda Breath of the Wild did not come out in the same year as this, then Horizon probably would have won Game of the Year that year. This game had great combat that made you feel like a beast when you learn how to use the equipment to take down giant robot beasts. It had a big and beautiful world to explore, a great and compelling story. It had some of the best visuals on the system. It had tons of weapons and upgrades to master, armor to find, puzzles to solve, dungeons to explore, and a great villain. You could play stealth or go all out, guns a-blazing. And that feeling you get when you take down one of the giant creatures, giant metal beasts, it gives you this high that never gets old throughout the entire game. And then when the credits finally roll, you find yourself wanting more. I can't wait for the sequel. And that's why this game is number 5 on my list. Number 4, Borderlands 3. Borderlands managed to capture something that Halo did back on the Xbox. Super fun co-op split screen with a buddy. Lots of games have split screen, but very few do it well. Halo and Borderlands have mastered it, I think, with all the crazy guns you can find, bombs to use, the great vibrant art style, unlike most shooters, which are all dark and grainy and gray. It has giant maps to explore with a buddy, the hilarious dialogue. What's not to like about Borderlands? Borderlands 3 takes everything the first 3 games did and just makes it better. Bigger areas, cooler characters to choose from, and even crazier weapons to find. To me, Borderlands 3 is the best split-screen co-op game available this generation. Hell, it might be the only one since most devs don't do split-screen anymore. Even though Randy Pitchford is a giant douche, that doesn't change the fact that this game is the best co-op shooter this generation, in my opinion. And that's why this is number 4 on my list. Number 3, God of War 2018. I have played and beaten every God of War game. Yes, that includes the crappy Ascension game. And after 6 games with the same combat style, it needed a fresh take. When I first saw God of War PS4, I was pissed that they changed it. But over time and watching more videos on it, I decided to give it a chance, and I am glad I did. First glance, it looks like they turned it into a Last of Us clone. But that definitely is not the case. The combat is grounded and visceral. You are basically a tank with an axe that acts like Thor's hammer. Your son is not useless like Ellie was. He actually helps you a crap ton with his badass bow and arrows. The story takes you on an epic journey that brings you across Viking lore and mythology. A tale of father and son with a promise to his dead mother to spread her ashes across the mountaintop. Along the way, Kratos unleashes his rage upon any who threatens his son's life. Along doing so, Kratos also battles with his rage to try not to lose control, just like he did in Olympus, which ended up, spoiler, he pretty much destroys all of Olympus. And along the way, Kratos learns about his wife's past and who his son becomes, setting up the next game for what I hope is a showdown with Thor himself. And that's why God of War 2018 is number 3 on my list. Boy. Number 2, Portal Knights. Now your first thought is probably, what the F, right? But let me explain. I never really got into Minecraft for the block building craze that followed, or the block building craze that followed. I tried Minecraft on multiple occasions, but could never really grasp what the game was, or what it wanted me to do, or what the point of it was. So I always got bored and moved on. It was so boring and ugly to play, I moved on to the next thing. One day I saw Portal Knights on sale and decided to try the demo on the PlayStation 4 eShop, or eShop, the PlayStation 4 shop, or whatever the hell it's called. And I liked it so much that I ended up buying it that day. And I was like, holy crap. The game looked great, much better than Minecraft. It had decent combat, very simple, but still really fun. The building was simple and fun and not overly complex. It's like a great introduction building game if you ever want to get into those. The mini worlds were all different and a blast to explore. And then I found out that it had full co-op. So then my brother joined me via split screen, and we discovered, unlike Minecraft, that he could take his character and use him in my world or in his and keep his progress and items. No other voxel game that I'm aware of, or survival game, does this, and it blows my mind that they don't. Ark, Conan, Minecraft, LEGO Worlds, and a bunch of these style of games lock your character to the map you start on, or make you drop all of your equipment and items when you try to move them to a different server or map. Portal Knights may look like a child's game, but in my opinion, it's the best block building game out there, and the game I played the most on PS4 up until I discovered the number one game on my list. That's why Portal Knights is my number 2. Number 1. Well, if you've been on my channel for a while, you probably already knew what my number 1 was, and that is Ark Survival Evolved. Here we are, number 1. My most played and favorite PS4 game so far. Ark Survival Evolved. I am not a big fan on the survival genre. However, I'm a big fan of creature taming and base building, which this game is the king of. For me, this game is basically grown-up Pokemon with base building added in. This game can be played however you want. You can play it online PvE, PvP, offline single player, offline split screen. You can rent your own server and have fun with just your friends, no other D-bags screwing up everything. It allows you to use cheats, admin commands. You can set the stats and difficulty to however you want. So if you're playing solo, you can adjust it so you don't get murdered every 5 seconds. Unless you like being a masochist, that's you. You can make up your own mini games if you're creative and have an imagination. You can, such as like a jump pad maze. Go check out my video, or a dodo basketball court. Check that out. It's pretty funny. Or a racetrack. Almost anything is possible if you can have imagination. And that's why Ark is my number 1 game for PS4. I think I'm going to go make some battle gyms next. Anyways, stay frosty, and thanks for watching. And feel free to post your list down below. I'm curious what your games were.